Elia, we have a few jars already filled with cucumbers and some wild berries from the woods, she shared, her eyes shining with pride. Eliam's gaze softened, remembering the lessons passed down through generations. We do not rush this work, he explained patiently. Salting our vegetables starts with a prayer and a calm heart. It is not simply the act of preserving food, but an offering, a thank you to the earth for its generous gifts. Amos Byler, leaning against the doorway with dirt under his careful nails, nodded in agreement. The garden provides, but it listens to our respect. We must honor the sprouting leaves and growing fruits by handling them with patience and care. Leah Zook, whose hands had mastered the art of packing jars for decades, added, "When we salt our cucumbers or cabbage, it is with intention. The right amount of salt is as important as the words we hold in our minds, the serenity we carry through each step. Hastiness weakens both the flavor and the spirit of the preserve." Silas Kite, the village storyteller, leaned forward with keen interest. "So you mean the very act of salting binds us spiritually to the summer's bounty?" he asked. Eliam nodded, smiling faintly. "Yes, every jar is a prayer sung into glass, a melody of thanks and preservation." The process of drying herbs and fruits brought its own quiet reverence. Birgit Lapp, who had become the guardian of ancestral recipes, spoke softly of the best ways to prepare the sun-warmed leaves. "We dry them in the cool shade, deliberately avoiding direct sun to keep their delicate aromas and healing powers intact," she said, lifting a bundle of sage tied with twine. "Apples, mushrooms, and wild herbs must breathe gently as they dry, just as we breathe gratitude into our daily lives." Tobias Hostetler, the young teacher eager to learn from the elders, took careful notes, his face lit with fascination. "Does the drying technique affect the flavor and the strength of the herbs?" he queried. "It does," Eliam replied slowly. "Respecting the rhythm of nature ensures the herbs hold their essence well into winter's depths." Merce smiled, recalling the many afternoons spent hanging bunches of fragrant thyme and chamomile near the kitchen window to dry. "This slow approach teaches us patience not only in harvesting, but in saving," she mused. "We do not merely collect what the fields offer. We cherish it, safeguarding the gifts so they may sustain us through cold months." Dinah Beachy, the kindly neighbor who often joined in these gatherings, added, "There is comfort in the jars lined up like tiny treasure chests on the pantry shelves. They are a reminder of summer's warmth that we can hold close when the frost comes." Leah's wisdom reached deeper when she spoke of storage. "The right place is cool, dark, and dry. Every jar must feel like a treasure resting in its quiet sanctuary. We check on them, respecting their slow transformation, knowing they carry both nourishment and memory." Silas chimed in with a story of how his grandmother used to sing to the pickles during the long nights, believing this tender care enriched their flavor. "It is more than food preservation," Eliam said, rising slowly with a serene smile. "It is a bridge between our past and present, a way to carry summer's blessings through time." Amos, rubbing his hands thoughtfully after a day tending rows of tomato plants and green beans, reflected aloud. "Our hands prove that the earth's rhythm is steady if we only listen. Each preserved tomato, salted cucumber, dried herb is a testament to this harmony." Tobias nodded eagerly. "I want to learn to carry this respect forward," he said softly, inspired by the quiet devotion before him. Eliam laid a firm but gentle hand on Tobias's shoulder. "And so you shall, as soon as you are ready. These lessons are not rushed. They are gifts entrusted with love and patience." The children listened quietly, their eyes wide with wonder, as the stories and rituals woven through simple acts of salting and drying unfolded. Birgit gently unfolded a worn cloth, revealing an old recipe book, its pages marked by years of hands, following precise and loving instructions. "Each family adds its own song to the process," she explained. "What we create is never exact, but always true to our hearts." Dinah's laughter bubbled softly as she recalled the time a batch of pickles did not turn out as planned, only to be saved by a late-night hymn and a spoonful of hope. The warm room filled with the scent of freshly cut dill and the earthy aroma of drying mushrooms, each breath a reminder that every jar, every bundle, every carefully folded leaf holds a story. Eliam spoke softly as the evening deepened. What we make now is more than food. It is gratitude captured, patience honored, and the earth's gifts cherished in every taste and texture. As the fire crackled gently, Silas began composing a new tale, inspired by this sacred work, preparing to share the legacy with the next gathering. With hearts full and jars lined in quiet rows, the family felt the steady pulse of summer's gifts, stored safely for the colder days. The work was slow, deliberate, and filled with meaning, a timeless song sung in the kitchen and garden alike. Eliam's voice carried them forward as the night settled. Tomorrow, we will tend the garden again and prepare the next batch, walking always with respect and gentle hands. And so the circle of cultivation and preservation turned, ready to guide their hands and hearts into the next chapter of their shared journey. Сушка даров природы, с уважением и заботой. Have you begun sealing your jars yet, or are you just about to start? Eliam Yoder's voice, calm and steady, filled the room as he settled beside the wooden table. It matters not how early or late you start, but how patiently you tend to these preparations. His eyes, soft with years of experience, invited those gathered around to listen closely to the gentle wisdom handed down through generations. Beside him, Mrs. Stoltzfus nodded thoughtfully. Every jar we fill is more than just food preserved. It is a piece of our summer, a memory captured with care. He carefully lifted a sprig of dried herbs, inhaling their subtle scent. This is not a task for haste, but for reverence. We honor the earth by preserving her gifts thoughtfully, not recklessly. Amos Byler, leaning on his cane, added, "When drying herbs, apples, or mushrooms, always choose the quiet shade, sheltered from harsh sun or driving rain. The gentle air will carry away moisture slowly, preserving flavors as if the very soul of the plant remains intact." His gaze drifted outside, as if seeing the garden where the bounty quietly ripened. Leah Zook often reminds us, Eliam continued, that drying is a prayer too, a conversation with the earth. We speak softly with our actions, showing thanks for abundance rather than demanding it hastily. When placing herbs on racks or strings, we respect their delicate nature, turning them with care until they rest perfectly tender and dry. Birgit Lapp, the keeper of recipes, smiled warmly from across the room. "Salt is our ally in the kitchen," she said, "but it calls for patience and prayer. When we salt cucumbers or cabbage, a slow embrace with salt draws out bitterness and keeps spoilage at bay. Blessing each batch gives it spirit, a harmony with nature's rhythm." Tobias Hostetler, the young teacher eager to learn, leaned forward. "How do you know when the drying is done?" he asked, curiosity bright in his eyes. Eliam chuckled softly. "The herbs tell you in their crispness, the apples in their pliant skin, the mushrooms in their firm yet lightweight form. It is a dialogue, not just a process." Dinah Beachy, ever neighborly, chimed in with enthusiasm. Sharing these preserved foods at winter tables carries warmth far beyond the kitchen. Each jar holds summer's laughter and sunlight, a song in glass that carries love through cold seasons. Silas Kite, the storyteller, joined the circle, his voice weaving tales from past centuries. Our ancestors knew these ways not as chores, but as sacred duties. They moved with the turning seasons, understanding that to gather without giving thanks or preserving with neglect was to break the covenant with the land. Each jar sealed was a promise kept, a gift to those yet to come. Eliam nodded reverently. "Remember, it is not merely about collection, but conservation. The bounty gathered must be saved with intention, transforming fleeting summer moments into enduring sustenance." "How do we preserve the goodness without it fading?" Merce asked. eager to remind all in the room. By respecting moisture, light, and time. Too much sun strips color and flavor. Too much waste spoils treasure. Balance in every step keeps the harvest true. Leah added, when drying apples, slice them evenly and place on racks in shadowed spots where air circulates freely, but no sunlight burns the tender flesh. The same holds true for herbs. Their essential oils are fragile and must be guarded like precious gems. Birgit's hands moved as if weaving a prayer. Salting is a dance. We sprinkle slowly, spot by spot, building layers of flavor and preservation. It is never rushed. We listen to the produce and to the seasons. Tobias, always the inquisitive apprentice, asked, "And what of mushrooms? They seem so delicate. How do we dry them properly?" Amos replied, "Clean them gently, slice thickly to keep their substance, then dry in shaded warmth. Slow drying preserves aroma and texture, capturing Earth's essence in a brittle shell." Dinah smiled at the younger folk. "It is our bond with the future, sharing skills so every generation can harvest not only food, but patience, humility, and respect for nature's laws." The hush of summer afternoons spent in these tasks echoes in winter's quiet kitchens, Silas whispered, as if the seasons themselves listened. Each preserved herb, each salted vegetable, sings a song in glass, a thanksgiving forever kept. Eliam's voice softened as he concluded, "Together we tend the garden with steady hands and grateful hearts. Our work honors the past and nourishes what will come. And now, as the days grow shorter, we prepare not only our pantries but our spirits for the colder months, preserving more than food, preserving hope." With these words lingering gently in the room, the family felt a deeper connection to their land and each other. Steps toward the next chapter of living in harmony with the earth unfolding naturally before them. Хранение и благодарность через каждую баночку. Eliam Yoder sat quietly on the wooden bench under the old oak, sunlight filtering softly through the leaves. His gaze was calm, steady, as if carrying the weight and warmth of countless summers spent tending the earth. "Have you begun to seal your jars yet?" he asked gently, voice like a slow river. "Or does the harvest still wait in your fields? Tell me, from where do you write, and what have you started to preserve? Cucumbers, herbs, berries perhaps?" Such simple questions held deep care, a bridge between his family and others who shared this timeless ritual. Merce Stoltzfus, his faithful helper, gathered freshly picked dill and garlic, preparing to share the ancient ways of salting with Eliam. "Salt is more than just salt," Merce reminded, eyes twinkling. "It is patience. It is prayer. When we salt our cucumbers or beans, we do it with reverence, not haste. The moment we rush is the moment we betray the gift of the earth." They moved deliberately, measuring coarse salt with steady hands, knowing that the magic lay in the waiting, the quiet transformation deep within each jar. Leah Zook's voice entered softly from the porch, where she stood with baskets of herbs and apples. "Drying must honor the sunlight's touch, but never its harshness. We do it in the shade, in a gentle breeze, allowing the gifts of the garden to rest and whisper their secrets as they lose their moisture." Her fingers carefully arranged sprigs of mint and chamomile across clean linen, and her eyes reflected a wisdom etched from many seasons. Each dried leaf, every curled apple slice, is a love letter to the coming winter's firelight. Amos Byler, tending the rows of late-season tomatoes, nodded thoughtfully. To gather is one thing, to preserve another. Without care, the harvest is fleeting, but bundled in jars and hung in bundles, the season's bounty sings its song in cold months when the land sleeps. It teaches us to be faithful stewards, to honor the cycle that gives us life. His voice carried the earth's richness, a reminder that stewardship was more than work. It was a covenant. Silas Kite, nearby by the family hearth, began to recount stories woven through these practices. Our ancestors understood, as we do now, that each jar is not simply fruit or vegetable trapped in glass. It is a song, a praise, captured in silence. When we open a jar in the dead of winter, it is as if the summer sun dances back through time, reminding us that light and warmth endure. His words lingered, carried by the faint smoke and the crackle of drying herbs suspended above the fire. In the kitchen, Birgit Lapp carefully demonstrated the salting and drying techniques she had inherited. Salt must come from good measure and good heart, she said. Layer your cucumbers with dill, add crushed garlic, and pour brine slowly. Cover tightly, but not too tight. Let them breathe with the earth's own rhythm. When drying mushrooms or apples, place them roundly so air flows freely, and turn them with care, as if they were delicate children. Her hands moved with a tenderness that turned work into a prayer. Tobias Hostetler, still eager to learn, watched and asked questions with youthful zeal. How do we keep the jars safe once sealed? He wondered aloud. Does the glass hold the summer magic forever? Eliam smiled warmly. For as long as we tend them with respect and keep them in cool, dark places, the jars hold the memory of warmth. But beyond the glass, the true preservation lives in our hearts, in the stories and songs passed between generations, in our faith that each summer will return richer than before. Dinah Beachy, a neighbor whose door was always open, added a gentle voice to this conversation. The sharing of jars, the visiting of neighbors to exchange recipes or a taste of last year's pickles, it weaves our families together. No jar is truly full without friendship. Our harvest is larger than the pantry. It is in the kindness extended and received. Her smile was a quiet invitation that spread like a warm quilt over the community's bond. Together, these voices formed a tapestry of tradition and love. How the simple acts of salting cucumbers, drying herbs, and storing fruits become a sacred dialogue with the land. It is a ritual that teaches us to slow down, to honor the passage of time, and to find gratitude in the abundance freely given. Each jar is a hymn, carefully crafted and sealed with the hope that the earth's bounty will nourish both body and soul through the cold days ahead. The season's gifts were never meant to be hoarded, but to be shared and celebrated. Eliam's gentle reminders echoed in the kitchen and garden, encouraging a way of life where nature's rhythms guide every hand. In the quiet moments by the pantry shelves, the family felt the presence of ancestors and the promise of future harvests, a circle unbroken and faithful. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows over the folds of the fields, the lessons settled deep, ready to be handed on once more. And so, with jars lined like soldiers of summer's grace and herbs hung like banners of patience, the family prepared for winter's hush. Yet, within the stillness, the memory of warmth and the song of the earth lived on, awaiting the next turning of seasons and the stories yet to be told. As the night deepened, Eliam's words whispered softly, reminders that the work of preservation is also work of love, of hope, and of living in harmony with the world that sustains us all.